Welcome to Hope from the Word. I'm Pastor Mike Swenson. We all have knowledge, right? We all know some things. We know that we're aware of things around us. We're aware of people around us. And you know what it is that you have to stop before you cross the street and look both ways to make sure you're okay. You have to cook eggs before you eat them. There's things that you know and you've learned over time. And we all have knowledge. We have different kinds of knowledge and different levels of knowledge. And there are the facts that you may know your neighbor. And some neighbors you may know better than other neighbors. In fact, one neighbor, you may know them. You know that they mow their yard a certain way, or you know the kind of car they drive and those things. But maybe you don't know them well. We would just call them an acquaintance, even though they are next door to you or near you. And so maybe the neighbor on the other side, you know them well. In fact, you know their friends, you know their hopes, you know their wants, and their personality is apparent to you because of the amount of time that you spend together with them. You know them. You have a friendship with them, a relationship with them. And if you go to the store together and somebody meets you and they say to your friend, hey, would you like to buy this? You may even know the answer that they're going to give before they give it because you know their personality and their wants. That's just a reality. But the Apostle Paul, over in Philippians, he writes to the church and he tells them and talks about his desire to have a solid friendship with God. Friendship is more than just knowing about Him. And listen to what he says here in Philippians chapter 3, verses 10 to 11. He says, I want to know Christ. Yes, to know the power of His resurrection and participation in His sufferings, becoming like Him in His death, and so somehow attaining to the resurrection of the dead. Now, this is a significant verse here where Paul shows his desire to know God through Christ better than he ever has. And we can tell here that he isn't simply saying that he wants to have an acquaintance with Jesus. It's more than that. He wants more than that. And there's no question. He wants to know Him like no other. Let me ask you, do you have this kind of desire to know Christ? Do you really want to know Jesus? And I'm sure that once you heard the part where Paul writes about sufferings and he writes about death, you may have pulled back a little bit and said, I don't know about that. I'm not interested in that, but there's some powerful things there for us. You need to notice what he's saying here. First of all, Jesus is not just your average, ordinary man. We understand that Scripture points to Him not only as the Messiah or the Christ, but as literally the Son of God. And that matters to us. And we know that we know that we should want to know the power of Jesus' resurrection, the miracle that He performed, that God performed when He raised Him from the dead. And that miracle was a powerful thing. And we need to have this kind of friendship with God where we even know what Jesus really wants. I think it's important. It's important to know Him like a good friend. And He wants to work in people's lives to give them hope. That's one of God's desires. That's one of Jesus' desires. And when I think about His suffering and even His death, it really reminds me of these things. He was willing to give Himself for others. And He knew God the Father would take care of Him in the process of giving of Himself. Then the resurrection would come. Then that resurrection. Do you know about Jesus? Or do you know Jesus? That's the question we must ask ourselves today. My prayer today is that you will know Him as a friend knows their own friend. My prayer is that you know Him more than you ever have, that you open His Word and allow His Word to speak to your life, that you know Him in prayer because you have that friendship, that connection with Him. May you know Him better both today, tomorrow, and here on out. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.